Hey everyone, it's Chris Farrell again. I'm here to do another live episode of Nerd Alert News here on YouTube Live. It's been an ongoing effort of mine to try and do a lot of these episodes on YouTube Live, kind of give you an idea of how the show is made, because if you stick with this video that you're watching now, I'll give you some cool news, but you'll also get to see like the show notes I use to make this news. You'll get to see some live editing and Audacity as we do things, because it's technically a live video/audio production. So I guess episode 51, we're going to start here in just 1 second. Let me pull up the right screen here. So if you're watching the video for the first time, you'll be going, whoa, what the hell did he just put up on screen here? Well, top left side of things, you've got a copy of the show notes I'll be referencing as I do the show. The right side of the screen is a picture of me, so you can see me make weird faces sometimes as I read these news stories. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is my Audacity window. That is the audio editing software I use to record this podcast. So I will be recording the podcast using Audacity and a backup recorder that I have plugged into everything too. You can't actually see it on camera, and I would grab it, but I have some cable length limits right now because I have it plugged into the wall for power instead of batteries. But I'm recording 3 different backups for this broadcast because, yeah, if you're a podcaster, there's no such thing as too many backups, I've learned after all of these years. So we'll be getting started in just 1 sec with episode 51 of Nerd Alert News. All right, so here we go in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, I'm Chris Farrell, and welcome to Nerd Alert News. It's hard to keep on top of all the nerdy news that floods the internet, but that's where this show comes in. I'm going to do all the hard work. I'm going to find all that news that you need to know. This week's going to be a little different than normal. I don't have a ton of stories, but I have some longer stories for you. So the headline is going to be revolving around the Galaxy Note 7 and some issues with that. And then the featured story, we supposedly have a leak of DC's plans for where they're going to go with the DC Cinematic Universe. I'm going to try and dissect a lot of those rumors and either geek out about them or say why I don't think they're possible. But there is a ton of rumors that have come out via Reddit, actually, of how the DC Cinematic Universe is going to be shaped going forward. Some of it sounds really cool. So I guess it's probably time for me to stop talking and roll on in to the headlines. So I teased it to start the show. The Samsung Galaxy Note 7 has been recalled. I'm getting this story from cnet.com. So you might be asking, why was the Note 7 recalled? Well, there was a problem with the Galaxy Note 7 battery. It's going to halt sales of the device around the world. Samsung is going to be recalling and replacing all of those phones that have already been sold. So you might be asking, wow, what kind of problem is there that would cause them to recall potentially 2.5 million versions of this phone? Because as of last week, supposedly they had sold $2.5 million phones, and this is their new featured phone. So that's a lot. Well, here's what's happened. There's about 35 reports that have come out. You've probably seen some of them on Reddit, on different tech blogs, things like that, of the phone basically exploding and catching fire due to a battery failure when it's charging. So, kind of a big deal. 35 is a very small number, but it's a much higher percentage of failures than you would want to see, especially such a catastrophic failure you would have here. So I think Samsung has no choice but to recall this phone, because even if there's that small percentage of chance that the phone's going to explode, that is totally not worth it. Because let's be honest, when I charge my phone at night, I generally take it upstairs to my bedroom, I set it down on the bedside table, I plug it in, I use it as my alarm clock, and I go to sleep. So if my phone exploded and caught on fire while I was asleep, it's probably going to catch my head on fire. Probably not something you want to see happen or have happen to you. It's kind of a big deal. Samsung is doing the right thing in recalling it versus trying to be like, oh, it's no big deal. But 2.5 million copies of this phone are out there already, plus whatever they'd already manufactured in the backlog that they're going to then send out there and sell. This is going to put them in a huge hole, I would think, as to their production on this phone. They've got to bring all of these back. They've got to figure out what the problem is. They either have to fix the phones they've already built, or they have to start manufacturing new ones. Wow, there's going to be a lot of money lost on this one. Sorry, live viewers, I'm about to sneeze. But now, of course, it won't happen. Okay, I guess I'm not going to sneeze. False alarm. So this isn't the first time that Samsung's had issues with or a flaw in their Galaxy Note line. You might remember last year, the Galaxy Note 5, if you put the stylus in the wrong way, it broke the phone. So it's not unheard of, but this is a much more different problem. And before it comes off as me being like, oh, Samsung, you're terrible. Well, they did screw up. That is a given. But they're doing absolutely everything right and trying to fix the problem by recalling every phone that's out there. Yes, I know I've said that multiple times. I'm trying to harp on it because it is a big deal. If you have a Galaxy Note 7, you're going to have to submit it in for the recall. It is not worth chancing the fact that your phone might explode while charging and seriously injure yourself, damage your house or your property of some kind. You are going to have to return it. Don't worry, we've got some insight for you coming up here in the next article about how the different vendors are handling the Galaxy Note 7 recall. Now, if you're Samsung, this is terrible this is happening because A, it's a PR black eye, B, people aren't going to trust the product as much going forward, and C, supposedly Apple's announcement for the iPhone 7, well, not supposedly, we know Apple's going to be announcing the iPhone 7 on September 7th. That's 2 days from when I record this, so your feature-laden new flagship phone is out. Everyone loves it. You've had to recall it because of a battery issue. Apple is going to be dropping or at least announcing their new phone in 2 days and probably putting it on sale within the next couple weeks of that. This is not a good time to be Samsung. Anyone who is super interested in the Note 7 who's going to have to turn theirs back in, I bet you they're going to be looking at the iPhone 7S or whatever the phablet-sized version of the iPhone 7 is. Tough times for Samsung. They're going to have to find a way to make this up to people other than just be like, hey, we're going to recall your phone and replace it for free. There's got to be some kind of incentive or some kind of perk that keeps people coming back to this because it is a big deal. It is a very big deal. So I did tease it, how all the different phone vendors are handling the Galaxy S7 recall. The guys over at Android Central have done a great job of putting together a broken down list of how everyone's going to be handling this because you might have just bought your Galaxy Note 7 from your cellular provider of choice, be it AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, anything like that. This is going to be mostly North America centric. I apologize. If you go to the show notes, there's a link to this Android Central article. They have a breakdown on how it's going to be handled in Canada as well with some of the major cell phone providers. Probably going to be very similar in design to what you're seeing from the US providers in this breakdown. The reason I'm doing US focused primarily is because if I go and look at the breakdown for who has viewed the podcast, the live stream, and the download, we're predominantly listened to by North American consumers. So I've got to tailor this a little bit better in this regard. So please go and check out the show notes. You can find the other countries, how they're handling this recall. So we know Samsung issued a statement informing customers they're going to be able to replace their Note 7s with new units as early as next week. That's great. Customers will be given the option of trading their units in for either a new Note 7 or a Galaxy S7 or S7 Edge and a refund for the difference. In addition to that, all accessories can be exchanged for their S7 equivalents. That's awesome. That's a great thing right there. The Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge, they're very good phones. I know people that have them. They love them. They're highly reviewed. When you go and look at all the reviews online, they're very solid. Now, the Note 7 was a little bit better because it was bigger screen. You got the pen. But basically, if you look at it, the guts are almost the same between these two phones. So it's not much of a trade down. The other nice thing is if you went and bought a bunch of cell phone cases and specific chargers like USB-C chargers, because the Note 7 is USB-C, you can trade all of that in to get your mini micro USB chargers that you would for Galaxy S7 or Edge. It's a smart move. It's not a huge step down, but it is a step down when you start talking hardware, though. Samsung is also offering $25 phone bill credits or a $25 gift card for the inconvenience. They recommend calling 1-800-SAMSUNG to arrange a mail exchange or to return the unit to a retail store from which they purchased the unit. So say you went and bought yours at Best Buy or Walmart or something like that. Call this number, 1-800-SAMSUNG, arrange the exchange, and then return it. Not a problem. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze again, too. All right. I can't remember how I actually ended that before I paused it, so if you're watching live, you're going to see me go back and arrange the exchange and then return it. Not a problem. All right, so now that I know what I'm doing... So let's get into how these cellular providers are handling this in North America. I guess T-Mobile is letting customers return their Note 7 in any store for a full refund of the purchase price and any accessories that might have been bought. You'll then be given the choice of buying another phone or receiving a new Note 7 when they are put on sale again if you wish. So, get your money back, buy a different phone, or wait for the next Note 7. That's great, except for the fact that you're without a cell phone if you decide to wait for the next Note 7. So, not exactly convenient. Now, Sprint's made a big deal of trying to be more customer friendly and trying to draw people in with their new unlimited plans, things like that. They have said customers can return their Note 7 to any of its stores and they'll be given, quote, a comparable device, end quote, to use in the meantime. I kind of like this thought. You're going to get your Note 7 back when it's fixed, or there's a repaired version out there or whatnot. In the meantime, you get to borrow a cell phone from Sprint, it would seem. Now, what a comparable device is, that's where it gets real interesting. Is it going to be just the Note 5? You get one of those. Is it going to be another Android phablet? Or is this going to be the chance where they'd be like, here you go, have an Apple iPhone 6S. This is comparable because it's roughly the same kind of device, and you start to see people make that switch over from Android to Apple. I have no idea what the case is going to be. If any of you guys that are listening are Sprint customers and have exchanged your Note 7, please shoot me a message. Let me know what your comparable device is you get to use in the meantime. I'm very curious to see what they do. My guess is it will probably be an Android phone, but the guy in me that likes controversy and things like that, I kind of hope they're giving out iPhones for people that are having these Samsung issues just to see what the reaction would be. Verizon has said that it has stopped selling the Galaxy Note 7 through September 30th, 2016. They are waiving the restocking fee for any customers who purchase a Note 7 and wish to return or exchange it. So again, you're in the same boat here. If you return it, you're without a phone in the short term unless you have a loaner of some kind. That's a problem. Let's move on to AT&T. They say they're working with Samsung to facilitate exchanges of the Note 7. They're allowing customers to return their devices to the store for another smartphone device. They will also refund any accessories purchased directly from them. Again, that's a solid approach. Take in your Note 7, get your money back or exchange it for another smartphone, and take any of your Note 7 specific accessories and exchange them and return them and get your money back. That's a smart way to do it. I don't have any problem with AT&T's approach on that. And finally, as of this recording, US Cellular had not yet announced its plans for handling the recall. The assumption is it'll be something similar to what you are seeing from the other big manufacturers, the big customers. Honestly, if I was an owner of a Note 7, I kind of hope I was on Sprint right here, because I return my Note 7 to the store, I get a comparable device to use in the meantime until it's ready. That's awesome. That is pretty much the best deal on these. Is yes, my Note 7 gets recalled. That's terrible. It's a pain in the butt. Everyone acknowledges that, but Sprint's making it the easiest way to survive without having my Note 7 in the short term, because many people trade in their cell phones when they go and buy these new ones. So they don't have a backup phone to go to when they have to return their Note 7 now. So if you have a Galaxy Note 7, I know I touched on this, please call 1-800-SAMSUNG, go back to your cellular provider stores, any of these things. You have to return it. It is dangerous. If your phone explodes and catches on fire, that is a big deal. It is a problem. You do not want this to happen. Do not risk it. Do not risk it. You know it's a big deal because Samsung has voluntarily recalled 2.5 million devices. Please, listen to me. Go turn in your phone. It is not worth it. If you can't be without your phone in the short term, the best advice I would give you is do not plug your phone in overnight or when it is not being observed. If you have to plug in your phone, plug it in so that you can see it plugged in, see it charge, and as soon as it hits that 100% mark, unplug the phone immediately. I strongly implore you, do not do this unless you have absolutely no choice. Go and take the phone back. Follow the recall procedures. If for some reason you don't have a phone and there's something you need in the short term, go and look at things like the Moto G and the Moto E. You can find pre-owned versions of them for like $9.99 online. Yes, it is not cutting edge at all, but it will answer. You can answer phone calls on it. You can do basic web browsing, Facebook and Twitter. It'll get you through in the meantime. Please do not use your Galaxy Note 7s. Don't plug them in. It's dangerous. And that's enough of me preaching to you guys. You really don't need me to preach anymore on this. Just return it. I'm looking out for you guys, I promise. But before we move on to our featured story, I do like to remind folks that Nerd Alert News is in fact part of a network of podcasts. It's called the GonnaGeek Network. You can find that over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. I believe there's 18 different podcasts on the network right now, and we are always growing, always trying to find new geeky podcasts to bring in new listeners. I do like to highlight a podcast each week when given the chance. This week I'm going to talk to you guys about Tyrion's Landing. It is the official Game of Thrones podcast for the GonnaGeek Network. Episode 110 is Season 6 highlights. Jeannie, Nikki, and Rachel talk their favorite scenes from Season 6 of Game of Thrones. They talk Game of Thrones election candidates and the upcoming Game of Thrones concert that is coming soon. So check that out over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're going, well, Chris, I have a geeky podcast. I'd love to have a network to go to. Hey, we might have a place for you over at the GonnaGeek Network. Go to GonnaGeek.com/join. You can submit your podcast to try and be part of the GonnaGeek Network. It's a great place to be. We have got a great community of podcasters, and it's nice to have people that are willing to come help you out all the time. So check that out, GonnaGeek.com/join. That's what happens when I try and edit on the fly. So I stuttered, and let's delete that. And we'll move on to the next story. Sorry, live viewers, I had to edit myself making weird noises on the fly. So guys, it's that time, featured story time. I teased it at the top of the show. This is going to be pretty long and in-depth. The future of the DC movie universe, courtesy of ScreenGeeks.com. There is a long list of all of the rumored plans. I'm going to try and highlight a few of them. There is a ton more that I'm going to discuss on the show, so go and check out the show notes, bit.ly/nerdalert51. You can see them for yourself. And there's tons of interesting plans that have leaked out. I guess the guys over at ScreenGeeks.net saw it on Reddit. They captured the info off Reddit, and then it was taken down off of Reddit. So I don't know if that's an indicator of it being true or not. But regardless, it's really fun to see all of these supposed things that might be happening in the DC universe. But regardless, I'm editing this one on the fly as well, guys. Because I'm all stuttery and have plosives today, it would appear. Even my pop filter did not counter how heavy a pop that was. So one of the rumors coming out is we could expect a Teen Titans movie coming forward. Now, I've read a lot of the Titans books when I was younger. I watched the Teen Titans cartoon series that was on, not the new Teen Titans Go, but like the old school Teen Titans one with Ron Perlman as Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke the Terminator. Very good stuff. So according to this, Cyborg is out for Teen Titans, but expect a full Titans flick with Deathstroke as the main antagonist. Nightwing will be in it, but Cyborg will in turn be in the Flash movie because Barry and Vic knew each other in school. Alright, so let me start. We've seen the test footage of Deathstroke. Ben Affleck put that online. It looks awesome, heavily inspired by Arrow and the Arkham games, it would appear. But it looks awesome. I can't wait to see where they go with Deathstroke. If you put Deathstroke in one of these upcoming DC flicks and then carry him over into the Teen Titans movie, that's an awesome way to connect these universes together. I want to see it, but I really wish Deathstroke had the voice of Ron Perlman, because that's what I hear in my head whenever I read anything read a comic or anything like that with Slade Wilson in it. Moving on, Cyborg in the Flash movie, I'm okay with that. He doesn't have to be in a Teen Titans movie, because if you look at how the DC universe has been structured since the New 52, he's been a Justice Leaguer, not a Teen Titan. So with the current DC canon, moving Cyborg over to the Flash, having him and Barry know each other in school, totally works well for me. So Deathstroke the Terminator, like I said, we saw the test footage. According to this article, Deathstroke was offered to a bunch of actors, but the role ultimately went to Joe Manganiello. Okay, I'm cool with that. If you've seen the guy in person, he's giant, he's jacked, and he's got a good voice. He could be really good for the role of Slade Wilson. I'm totally all right with it. I can't wait to see if that is confirmed as true, but other sites on the internet are reporting that rumor as being fact as well, so who knows, maybe we all just bid on the same fake news story. So I have made no secret about the fact that Man of Steel Not really one of my favorite movies. In fact, I think I've called it disaster porn from time to time. Well, according to this article, a sequel to Man of Steel is going to be released in 2020. The name Superman will not be in the title of this movie, so we'll continue on the naming convention started with the first Superman movie that Zack Snyder did, where it didn't actually reference Superman, but had some reference to him in the title. Now, the villain is supposedly going to be Brainiac. They're trying to court several directors, including J.J. Abrams and Duncan Jones. You might remember J.J. Abrams from a thing like, Star Wars and Star Trek, and Duncan Jones from the last Warcraft movie. Other characters being considered for this movie include Supergirl and Superboy. Supposedly, Lex Luthor will be a key character in Brainiac's new origin. The origin that is supposedly the plan right now is that Lex uses Kryptonian and alien tech to enhance Lex OS, and it then becomes Brainiac. Okay, so I don't think this part's true. I think that might be something that's been planted out there, because think about it. Sounds awful a lot like how Tony Stark and Bruce Banner create Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't think they would follow that same formula to establish Brainiac in here, who is basically a robotic enemy that they're going to have to fight, much like the Avengers had to fight the robotic Ultron. I don't think that's the case. I think this is a false lead that someone planted out there, but it sounds cool. Brainiac could very well still be the villain. Now, from what they have seen, they definitely want Brainiac to be a physical form, not an AI controlling drones or something like that. Again, very Ultron sounding. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. My guess is it might be true up to the fact that they're targeting Brainiac, and then from that point, it's just kind of speculation that this is how Brainiac could be formed. And it's speculation that is seemingly greatly influenced by the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Next rumor that's coming out, it's a very short one, but I want to bring up. Supposedly, Edgar Wright is being courted for a project in the DC movie universe. Makes sense. Everyone was very excited for what Edgar Wright was going to do with Ant-Man. And you have to admit that Ant-Man was still very Edgar Wright inspired. Smart director to try and bring in. They're doing the right thing by trying to bring in a bunch of new, different directors from what you've seen before. So let's talk Justice League. The villain is supposedly Steppenwolf, which has been leaked out there already. The League is going to fight the Parademons for a good chunk of the film. Lex will be let out of prison and then gets the public to love him. He will then try to manipulate the public into hating heroes like Batman and Superman, but it doesn't work because these heroes have been fighting and people can see that and they're fighting for them. Very tough to do. So Lex helps Steppenwolf come to Earth in exchange for technology and knowledge. Makes sense. Lex is always trying to learn more, get new technology to get over on people. I could see this very happening. Now, Lex is going to be very manipulative and much calmer than he was in Batman v Superman, making him much scarier. Again, this is kind of what you have to do, because the Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, that wasn't Lex Luthor, guys. That was just some weird dude that sort of talked like Lex Luthor on occasion. So, this might not be true, but I did want to bring it up. There's a funny scene after the League is assembled where Joker and Harley are committing a crime and they expect Batman to show up. Well, the whole League shows up. And I guess it's really funny because Joker and Harley just stand there not knowing what to do, kind of like, oh crap moment. Later, the League will get their butts kicked by Steppenwolf, but then Superman is going to return and weaken him. So we will have the resurrection of Superman in the Justice League movie, something that we should not be surprised of. Henry Cavill has been teasing it. In fact, Henry Cavill has been teasing the black suit that Superman wore when he was resurrected in the comics. Now, stand by, because that's going to come into play as well. The full Justice League is going to work together to defeat Steppenwolf, and they're going to have a big cinematic climactic fight scene that's going to be very reminiscent of the fight scene in the Avengers. Makes sense. If you're doing a team-up movie, you probably want to do a big fight scene like that, where you get to see everyone use their powers on screen together. Now, I brought up the black suit thing. Well, Superman is supposedly going to have a beard, long hair, and a tattered or scorched-looking black suit. Okay, that's just like what he was resurrected with. He's also going to be thin at first, not as thin as you saw in the Flashpoint Superman, but still thin. And as he fights with Steppenwolf, you'll see him return to full strength with each swing, and each second he's in the sunlight. That would be a really cool effect. That would be awesome to see. Literally, the sunlight strengthening Kal-El of Krypton as he's fighting the big bad. That is a cool moment. I would love to see it. If this is true for what we're getting for Justice League, I'm really intrigued to see where they go with it. But that's not all they have for the rumor of what's going to be happening with Justice League. Green Lantern is going to show up at the very end of the film, although they may move it to a post-credit scene, and then there's going to be a full Darkseid tease at the end. But here's the caveat on Darkseid. Justice League 2 may or may not use Darkseid as the villain. and here's why. The biggest concern is the comparison to Thanos. I kind of get that. Marvel's been building up Thanos for a while, and if you don't know much about the comics, Darkseid and Thanos, they seem very similar as long as you're looking at some big alien out there who has big plans for us and is going to come in and do something bad. They may use Darkseid further down the line once the dust is settled after Infinity War. Other villains being considered for Justice League 2 include the Injustice League, which could be very cool, the Crime Syndicate, and the Society. They really want to bring in multiple villains into the sequel because supposedly the Tower of Babel arc is being discussed as a possible plot. If you are not familiar with the Tower of Babel plot, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it is one of my favorite Justice League arcs from the comics. It was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I can't recall the exact date. I've read it multiple times. The date is just escaping me. It's awesome. Go and read it. If they can do a film adaptation of the Tower of Babel, that would be fan-freaking-tastic. More on Justice League 2. It's going to be pushed back to the end of 2019 to make room for Justice League Dark. So we've heard the Justice League Dark stuff being thrown around. That's heroes like Zatanna and Constantine, more of the supernatural dark twist on things. Supposedly they're going to change up the title so as not to confuse moviegoers. Whatever. Come up with some cool title for it. I don't think it really matters that you change the title. I don't think a different Justice League would be that confusing, but I kind of get the point and why you might try and do it differently just to ensure there's no confusion. A couple more bits here. The Batman film, which is supposedly going to be called The Batman, although they are considering other titles, is set for release on October 5th, 2018. Here's some of the current plot details. Black Mask will be the main villain. He's going to break the other villains out of Arkham in order to kill Batman. Joker and Harley will have a subplot involving a bomb to blow up all the inmates once Batman recaptures them, which will all result in Harley leaving the Joker because of the abuse and Batman trying to rehabilitate her. We kind of saw hints at this in Suicide Squad that Harley was going to eventually break away from the Joker. That's good. Break her off from the Joker. It's what they've done in the comics right now. The dynamic in the comics of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and the gang of Harleys and things like that. It's awesome. You don't have to have Harley Quinn paired with the Joker to make her an interesting character. So going back to the Batman flick, Deathstroke is going to be sent in by Amanda Waller to help contain the situation so she can use all of these criminals for her own means, but Batman is going to fight Deathstroke and promise Waller that he's coming for her next. That could be a pretty cool, interesting moment. It kind of ties into the Justice League cartoon where Batman and Waller are on opposite sides of the coin for a long time, and he does say at one point he's coming for her and confronts her on some of her actions. I want to see that happen. So supposedly Deadshot is also going to be in this movie. He's going to leave the asylum to be with his we're going to edit that out. He's going to leave the asylum to be with his that was one of the worst stutters I've had. He's going to leave the asylum not to fight Batman, but so he can spend time with his daughter, which is something they have set up in Suicide Squad. It was well set up in Suicide Squad. I'm okay with that. He's going to focus on his kid instead of his revenge on Batman, which makes sense. And why would he want revenge on Batman? If you haven't seen Suicide Squad, it's Batman that catches Deadshot and puts him in jail. So some more interesting news. Sorry guys, live edit. There's still more on the Batman flick. Still more to come. There's supposedly a really cool scene where Black Mask lines all the villains up and asks who will join him to get revenge. Now, supposedly this scene is going to focus a lot on Deadshot's reactions, making it clear he only wants his freedom. At the end, many of the villains will get away. Batman promises to hunt them down. The film is going to end with Batman overlooking Gotham and seeing one of his B-list villains, which one has yet to be decided, committing a crime. That could be really cool. That's a good way to set up more Batman flicks. They've pretty much established that Batman has got a pretty tight lockdown on Gotham City. He's put away a lot of the bad guys. Putting them all back in play could be really cool. Has potential to bring the Justice League in to help him out with some of this stuff going forward. If this is what the Batman movie is, it sounds pretty awesome to me. Do I think it's what it's going to be? I think elements of it we might see in a Batman movie going forward, but I find it very hard to believe that everything about this leaked out online. If it did, this assumption of what the Batman flick is going to be is awesome. I would watch the ever-living crap out of that. One last thing, they're planning on bringing the DC Cinematic Universe television shows to HBO exclusively. Supposedly they're tossing around ideas of doing a Birds of Prey, Nightwing, the Question series, The Phantom Stranger, Zatanna, or Dr. Fate, or potentially all of them on HBO. That could be really cool. I don't see HBO wanting to pick up all of those. From a purely selfish standpoint, I would love to see a Nightwing one because I'm a big Nightwing fan, and Birds of Prey would tie in very well with Nightwing. And then both of those tie in very nicely with the Batman side of things, so that could be pretty cool to do. Zatanna and Dr. Fate stuff also could be very cool because it would tie into Justice League Dark. Is this true? No, I don't see this one as being true. HBO might pick up one of them if they're lucky. I just don't see all of these shows coming to HBO. I think we're lucky if we get one. The concept of trying to do a TV show like that ties in is awesome, but we've seen the troubles that Marvel has had just trying to tie in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large. It's very tough to do. Why I like this idea that DC has, though, is take it to HBO. You don't have to worry about censorship, things like that. You can make these things get dark and gritty like they try and do. Dark and gritty makes sense for some heroes. For Birds of Prey and Nightwing and The Question, dark and gritty makes total sense. You can get away with it on HBO. So I would love to see where it goes from there. But those were the high points of the leaked information about the DC Cinematic Universe. There's tons of other stuff on this article over at screengeek.net. Go and check it out in the show notes. Look at it for yourself. Go and read all of the other rumors. I could not touch on all of them because as I look at the time right now, we're at about 27 minutes into the podcast, and I just did 2 news stories and a bunch of rumors from Justice League. There's a lot of rumors, guys, and most of them sound pretty cool. So fingers crossed they're true, because contrary to popular belief, I am not a DC Cinematic Universe hater. I have just been disappointed by the DC Cinematic Universe. So I would love to see them get things on track where they're putting out really good movies, much like Marvel has been, because everybody wins when good products are being put out there. I want everyone to win. But if you want any more details on any of the stories I've covered this week on Nerd Alert News, the show notes are available online. You can find them embedded in the MP3 itself or in the YouTube video if you're watching that, or just head on over to shownotes.nerdalertnews.com. That page has all of the show notes embedded as a Google Docs folder. You can find and read all of the ones you want there. If you want to get in touch with the show, there's a variety of ways to do so. nerdalertnews.com, nerdalertnews247@gmail.com is our email. You can tweet to @NerdAlertShow or @TheChrisFarrell. Send me your suggestions for stories. Yes, I know, Cage and Sean, I have a couple you've sent me. I have not been able to work them in yet because the Galaxy Note recall and the DC Cinematic leaks, they were big news, and I was a little behind on getting this out, so I had to cover those. But please, be like Cage and Sean, be like Neil, be like SP, who have sent me stories before. And if you have a chance, please head on over to iTunes, leave an iTunes review. Reviews are greatly important for getting the show some more focus on the iTunes side of things. But I think I have rambled on enough for today. I've told you all sorts of things you need to worry about with the Galaxy Note 7. I'm serious, guys. It's been recalled. Turn it back in. That's the last I'm going to say at this episode. And we have talked a ton about all of the rumors coming out for the DC Cinematic Universe. It's been a fun podcast, and I can't wait to do the next one coming up soon. So that wraps up this latest installment of Nerd Alert News. But don't worry, I'll be back real soon with your next Nerd Alert. Bye, guys. And if you are watching on the YouTube side of things, that's it. The show's over. I got to go and edit all of this audio I put together. It's going to be fun? No, editing is not fun. It's just a necessary evil. But thank you for hanging in there with us, YouTubers. And I will be back probably this upcoming weekend with some more Nerd Alert News stuff. In the meantime, if you're looking for more awesome geeky content to watch or listen to, head on over to GonnaGeek.com or Geeks.live. If you go to Geeks.live, it is where all of our live content streams for the GonnaGeek Network. And even if there isn't live content playing at that time, it's a simulated live. We have a 24/7 channel that basically plays our newest YouTube videos for you guys. Go and check it out. Lots and lots of awesome content. But that is going to wrap up my rambling at you guys for the last 35, 40 minutes. I'll see you guys soon with the next episode of Nerd Alert News. Bye, guys.